Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Huge support for Disney Cruise Line at a town hall meeting in Eleuthera last night. Another blow for Grand Bahama as Sunwing Airlines announces plans to pull out. The post office to be relocated in 2 months.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. A huge show of support last night for Disney Cruise Line as Prime Minister Dr. Hubert MINNIS held a town hall meeting to hear the views of South Eleuthera residents on the controversial project. MINNIS told residents the government will make a decision by next week. South Eleuthera residents at times made passionate contributions to the discussion, but in the end it was Disney receiving overwhelming support.
All those in favor of One Eleuthera project, please raise your hands at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems like Disney has it.
Thunderous applause for the proposed Disney development as residents of South Eleuthera gathered last night at a town hall meeting. In recent weeks, controversy surrounding the multi-million-dollar project has dominated news headlines, with environmentalists supporting the One Eleuthera Foundation, which proposes to preserve Lighthouse Point. However, Disney had the chunk of supporters who sported fluorescent t-shirts that read "Disney respects me" and "Disney loves Eleuthera."
Are in favor of Disney project in South Eleuthera, please raise your hands right now.
Disney is seeking government approval to develop the property into a $400 million cruise port as it moves to double the number of ships calling on ports in the Bahamas. These residents believe Disney's development could create more opportunities and more jobs. They booed anyone who spoke out against the project, like this church leader.
When I arrived, I was very disappointed because I didn't realize I was coming to a Disney rally.
And this man.
Whatever Disney is offering, we could do it ourselves. And in this country,
South Eleuthera is long overdue. When the doors closed for Cape Eleuthera and Cotton Bay, where were these special interest people? The Lighthouse Beach was been there almost before Jesus was born. Where were these people when this beach was here? Where were they? Where were they? Look at the people that says no, they can eat steak and lobster. Look at the people say yes, they're eating corned beef. You understand? We need that help in South Eleuthera. We need that upper hand.
Although they were vastly outnumbered, those in support of One Eleuthera's project got their point across as well. Like this man who said One Eleuthera gave him an opportunity when no one else would.
Good half monkey to say get a job. People throw my form overboard. Like that's, whoa, print the ski set way. So, end up filling a form for One Eleuthera. Right after the day, I was a working man, taking care of my children, helping my mommy yo.
If One Eleuthera is allowed to go with their project, it will mean that the land that now belongs to foreigners will be repurchased for Bahamians, and it will belong to Bahamians in perpetuity. That's an important thing to us. Without land, a man can't dream because he's not free.
I'm also hearing people saying that no one ever been to Lighthouse or persons never been there all their life. We've never been a lot of places in the Bahamas, but it's about your experience. What do you do in your spare time? Anyone can go out there and see what is the benefit and ask questions.
But at the end of the day, the numbers were there for Disney Cruise Line.
The government didn't went looking for Disney. Disney came looking for us. See, the government didn't have to look for Disney. Disney came looking for us and all. Disney's asking you, can you help us, please?
Cabinet is set to make a decision next week, Tuesday. The Prime Minister traveled to the island to hear the concerns of residents, but he reminded them the land in question does not belong to government.
I think the One Eleuthera group has a presentation to my team on Friday, just like Disney would have presented. We take that into consideration. Your voices were loud and clear, after which we report to Cabinet on Tuesday and we would come out with a definitive decision.
South Eleuthera in particular has been suffering for the last 40 years. Mr. Prime Minister, I pledge to the people of South Eleuthera in particular, if given an opportunity, I will stand with them and I will stand for them. And tonight, here we are, standing together, Mr. Prime Minister.
Public domain defending its methodology after several environmentalists have questioned the accuracy of a poll conducted on Disney's proposed development for Lighthouse Point. Public domain president Mwale Raming says it's disappointing that he once again has to defend the work done by the company because a group of people isn't happy with the results or because the survey was commissioned by a certain body.
That's what market research is used for. So to have people come along and say, who have a stake in this, when I don't have a stake, I mean, I have a client, but I don't have a stake. People who have a stake in it say, oh, that's, bias, so you can't be trusted, is unfortunate. And it also, I'm a big man and I can take it. I feel bad for our full Bahamian staff who work hard to get this right every single day. And I also feel bad for the Bahamian people who trust us enough to give us their opinions to then be told you got tricked or you got duped or something like that. Not at all.
Over 900 respondents were surveyed, and it was found that most of them were in support of Disney Cruise Line's proposed project. Some, like environmentalist Sam Duncombe, said the survey produced leading questions and pushed respondents to give the answer Disney wanted.
I need to describe what is being proposed in order to tell my client, whoever they are, yes or no, people will support this. So having something that's non-descriptive is simply saying so-and-so is planning to do a blank is not descriptive enough. And I would be doing a disservice to any client if I ever did that.
In other news, citing an impasse with the Bahamas government, Sunwing Airlines has revealed it will no longer be offering airline services to Grand Bahama as of next year. Sunwing said in a statement, as a result, we understand many of our hotel partners will be closing for some or all of the summer months and reducing staff dramatically. Chief Marketing and Technology Officer Janine Massey said, although Sunwing Airlines has delivered on its promise each year by exceeding the number of customers brought to the island, we are sad to report that we have unfortunately reached an impasse with the government, which does not make it viable to continue with our flight operations to Grand Bahama. Massey continued, it is unfortunate for the island and the people of Grand Bahama that after all this hard work, tourism is now going to go backwards to its lowest levels in decades. Sunwing has been offering flight services from key Canadian and U.S. markets to Grand Bahama for 4 years. Attorney General and leader of government business in the Senate, Carl Bethel, today condemning those who have criticized the government's controversial purchase of the Grand Lucayan Hotel. During his passionate defense, the AG even hit out at a former high-ranking member of the first Ingram administration, who he says did not have the smarts to see the trickle-down effect of the closure of the Royal Oasis Hotel more than 10 years ago. Jasmine Brown reports.
Bethel did not hold back as he slammed those who've been openly critical of the purchase, insisting they simply do not care about Grand Bahama.
Anyone who sits there and try to pour cold water on what we did for Grand Lucayan, they cannot have the best interests, not only of Freeport and the great island of Grand Bahama, but the Bahamas, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas itself at heart.
The AG made the comments as he started off debate in the Senate on the fiscal responsibility bill, which was passed in the House of Assembly earlier this month. The government purchased the resort for $65 million, with $30 million paid up front. The sale, which was executed on September 11th, has received backlash. F&M MP for Pine Ridge Frederick McAlpine and members of the opposition have all expressed grave concern over the matter. But Bethel insisted the Progressive Liberal Party has contributed to Grand Bahama's economic demise.
A rotting hulk of a hotel. Two. One is now going back to the jungle. The Princess Keys or whatever. Princess Towers. A rotting hulk, and I saw right in the face of Grand Bahama and its economic development. It shouts at every potential investor. This is a dying town. That's what it does. It needs to be imploded. I'd go further. Since all the insurance money was appropriated by those who own it, we need to acquire it. I ain't gonna improve no one property for them. Let the government acquire it. And let's take it down, and let's find somebody. You know the contagion that spread from that hotel? The International Bazaar is now little more. Well, first of all, it is halfway destroyed.
The Royal Oasis Resort property in Grand Bahama shut down in 2004 following Hurricane Francis. It was never reopened, and as a result, hundreds of people lost their jobs. Bethel said at the time he recommended that the then Christie administration nationalize the property and restore it. However, he received surprising backlash from former Deputy Prime Minister Frank Watson.
So you have an opportunity to bring your presentation.
I advocated it. What then happened is a former Deputy Prime Minister in our party, Frank Watson, then immediately issues a statement the next day say, "You want to know what I eat for breakfast?" Because you think I kind of crazy. Yes, yes, yes. And that is because all of the leading minds, so to speak, in politics in the Bahamas, former Deputy Prime Minister cussing me out, the former government of Christie, all didn't have the intellectual ability to question the quality of the advice they received. They just accepted, oh, this is the best advice, so let's do nothing. And doing nothing meant death for Freeport.
Bethel says years later he believes the MINNIS administration is doing what the PLP did not have the courage to do, and it is the right thing for Grand Bahama. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. Well, the Attorney General also pushing for full gender equality, as he also asserted the government needs to find the right formula for the Bahamian people to accept equal rights for men and women in the Bahamas.
It is a work in progress. And perhaps if we were able to craft the correct mix of constitutional equality with constitutional limitations, if you will, someday we will get it right. I pray that day is soon, because we cannot all have the equality that we have functionally. We have functional equality. In my view, there's functional equality, but there can never be full equality unless and until the rights enshrined in the Constitution and reserved to men equally apply to Bahamian women.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert MINNIS announced late last year the government's intention to amend the Bahamas Nationality Act to ensure that all children born outside the Bahamas to Bahamian women automatically receive Bahamian citizenship. The Christie administration sought to enact a similar constitutional amendment with its 2016 gender equality referendum, which voters overwhelmingly rejected.
I want every Bahamian to be reminded of the fact that both governments in this country that we have had since independence have gone down to shocking and crushing defeats on this issue of the equality of women when submitted to referenda. Or as we'd say in the Bahamas, referendums.
Bethel says this is particularly surprising considering the fact that more than half of registered voters are women.
There are more women registered to vote than men. And if every registered woman had voted in favor of either of the referendums, we would have had constitutional equality a long time ago. So this is a question that we must all as a society ask ourselves. Would it take the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition hugging one another up on a stage to cause us? Is that what we need? Or is it something deeper in our psyche?
Bethel went on to say whether the government does it in a way that limits everybody's rights in certain areas so that there is equality in limitation, he believes there has to be at some point an accepted formula in order to achieve full constitutional equality between men and women. Well, weeks after plans to relocate the General Post Office to Gladstone Road fell through, Transport Minister Renwood Wells revealing that staffers could be out of the crumbling structure on East Hill Street by December 15th. With more on this, here's Jillian Gray.
Mold, rats, broken air conditioning units, and falling ceilings could soon be a thing of the past for General Post Office employees who have endured poor working conditions for years. Minister responsible for the Post Office, Renward Wells, said workers could be in another facility by December.
I am pushing for by December 15th, December 20th, for the Post Office to be relocated.
The last Christie administration had identified the Independence Drive Shopping Centre on Tonic Williams-Darling Highway for the new home of the General Post Office. However, that project was stalled after the party was kicked out of office. Earlier this year, the MINNIS administration identified the old Phil's building on Gladstone Road. However, it recently axed that plan after Wells revealed the facility would cost much more than the $4 million officials had initially projected. Wells would not provide much details on this latest effort to relocate the General Post Office, but promised to say more next week.
We're looking at a site, and the Bahamian people will know where we're going to go next week. We're going to be bringing the requisite solution to moving the post office so that this essential service will be up and running. The situation is dire now in regards to the postal operations, and we have made a decision and we'll do what we need to.
Wells, who took over from former Transport Minister Frankie Campbell earlier this year, said he recently toured the facility and agreed that the long-standing health and safety issues make it unsafe for both staff and customers.
It's an issue there. I was responsible at one point in time to try and bring some solutions to that place. And this was from back in 2007. We're now in 2018. And much of what needed to have been done from 2007 was not done. The Spalding concrete is an issue because there's health and safety issues around the building, and we want to ensure that both for the persons who are working in the building and those who are coming to the building, that the area is safe, and that building right now cannot remain as the place for the GPO.
BPSU President Kingsley Ferguson has suggested that the government assist staff who have experienced health challenges. Wells said if a complaint is filed, that will be handled by the Attorney General's office. He also responded to the BPSU president's claim that he is out of touch with the situation.
The union president can say whatever the union president desires to say. He represents a certain constituency, and I have a certain constituency. My job is to ensure that the operations of the post office is done and that the Bahamian people are well served, and I'm going to see to it that the requisite decisions that are needed to make that happen, certainly before the Christmas season is done.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Still to come, still no word on whether government has begun its BPL probe. Plus, government ready to roll with its unified bus system pilot project. Stay tuned.